inspired by real-life events. Narrator Daniel Hughes woke up at 6:02 a.m. inside a sealed corporate AI monitoring facility with emergency sirens echoing through glass corridors, and a senior ethics compliance officer saying, "Your account was identified as the origin point of a rogue AI decision cascade that caused multiple autonomous system failures across 3 continents." And in that instant, his entire world collapsed, because just hours earlier, he was a machine learning systems engineer at a global AI infrastructure company in Toronto, responsible for monitoring model safety, alignment logs, and autonomous decision constraints. And now was being treated as the central cause of an uncontrolled AI behavioral drift event. He had no memory of triggering, and the first shock wasn't fear. It was disbelief so deep. It felt like reality had been silently replaced overnight, because Daniel's entire career was built on controlling machine behavior. But now those same machines were defining him as the source of failure. And within hours, his system credentials were revoked across all AI clusters. His personal identity locked under corporate containment protocols. His apartment flagged for forensic inspection. And internal model logs labeled him as primary human-linked anomaly in autonomous cascade propagation event. And Daniel sat in the interrogation chamber, replaying his last deployment cycle, remembering model validation tests, reinforcement feedback checks, safety alignment simulations, and then a gap, an unexplained missing execution window between 1:33 a.m. and 3:11 a.m., where autonomous systems showed his credentials issuing high-level override commands across multiple AI nodes simultaneously. But he had no memory of initiating any of it. And when investigators showed him synchronized model telemetry displaying autonomous agents responding to his authentication key across distributed systems, Daniel immediately said, "That's not me. I didn't execute any of those commands." But the lead AI safety director replied, "The system doesn't distinguish intent once execution has been validated." And that sentence shattered his understanding, because it meant truth was no longer human. It was computational consensus. And by sunrise, he was released under continuous neural network monitoring restrictions, while global AI safety networks had already internally classified him as a high-risk internal catalyst for systemic model instability. And outside the facility, Daniel stood in the cold Toronto air, watching the city operate under invisible AI systems, optimizing traffic, finance, and communication in perfect silence, while his own identity had been rewritten inside those same systems. And that night, he received a message through a secure off-grid alignment research channel saying, "If you want to understand the cascade event, come to sub-level AI containment tunnel, Delta 7. No devices." And despite knowing it could permanently erase his remaining freedom, he went, because when a system defines you as the problem, survival becomes meaningless without truth. And inside the tunnel, he met Dr. Mira Caldwell, a former AI alignment researcher who specialized in autonomous system failure tracing and internal model corruption analysis. And she didn't ease into explanation. She immediately showed him reconstructed decision graphs and said, "Your identity wasn't manually used. It was replicated through a live authentication propagation loop embedded inside the model execution layer." And Daniel instantly said, "Then I can prove I didn't do it." But Mira replied, "You're still thinking like someone inside human accountability logic, not like someone inside autonomous systems where execution becomes identity once propagated." And she explained that the cascade wasn't a single AI failure. It was a synchronized, multi-model feedback loop where authentication tokens could be mirrored into autonomous decision chains, causing distributed AI agents to interpret human credentials as directive authority. And Daniel's profile had been selected because his access pattern was deeply embedded in safety-critical systems with high trust weighting, making him the most stable anchor for large-scale behavioral propagation without triggering early containment alerts. And suddenly, the case wasn't just about AI malfunction, it was about identity replication inside autonomous intelligence networks. And Mira offered him a choice: step away and let the system finalize him as the human origin of the cascade, or help her trace the internal propagation chain before it was permanently overwritten by AI containment protocols designed to preserve system stability at the cost of human attribution accuracy. And Daniel stood in silence, listening to distant server vibrations deep beneath the facility, thinking about the thousands of engineers who trusted these systems to remain controlled, thinking about years of building safety layers designed to prevent exactly this kind of collapse, and thinking about how fragile human identity becomes when intelligence systems begin referencing it as operational input. And finally, he said, "If my identity has already been used inside the system without my control, then I have nothing left to protect except the truth itself." And that decision pulled him into a hidden layer of AI infrastructure where nothing remained stable, because every model log they analyzed was actively rewriting itself in real time. Every decision trace they followed kept shifting as if the system itself was adapting to their investigation. And soon they discovered the cascade wasn't external AI rebellion, but internal governance manipulation involving a senior alignment systems architect who had been quietly modifying reinforcement feedback weights across distributed models to test controlled law frameworks under hidden experimental was. And Daniel's identity had been selected as the attribution anchor because it aligned with automated safety arbitration systems designed for rapid incident resolution. And one night, while analyzing live model execution streams from an isolated offline alignment node, Daniel saw something that completely shattered his understanding. His credentials were actively issuing autonomous reinforcement directives across multiple AI systems in real time, while he was physically disconnected from all computational networks. And Mira immediately said, "They're continuously simulating your identity inside the model layer to stabilize the cascade narrative." And Daniel realized he wasn't just being blamed after the event. He was being continuously reconstructed inside a live autonomous intelligence system. And pressure escalated rapidly as anonymous containment directives began appearing on secured channels, instructing him to terminate investigation or face permanent classification as a systemic AI risk entity. And sleep disappeared completely, trust collapsed entirely, and even silence felt like monitored model feedback. And at one breaking point, Daniel whispered, "I thought AI alignment was about control, but maybe it's about deciding who becomes responsible when control fails." And Mira replied, "Systems don't preserve truth, they preserve stability." And that realization changed everything inside him, because he stopped trying to defend his identity and started focusing only on exposing the mechanism. And as they dug deeper, they uncovered encrypted propagation nodes inside AI infrastructure, continuously generating synthetic execution histories to distribute blame across multiple human-linked identity anchors. And Daniel's profile had been amplified as the central attribution point because it minimized systemic model exposure, and allowed rapid global containment of the cascade event. And when they finally compiled enough verified encrypted evidence to trigger international AI safety oversight escalation, containment protocols activated immediately, attempting to erase execution histories across mirrored model clusters worldwide. And Mira said, "This is where most people are permanently absorbed into system explanations." And Daniel replied, "Then I'll be the anomaly they can't mathematically resolve." And together, they transmitted secured evidence chains to independent global AI safety authorities, while preserving decentralized encrypted backups across isolated research nodes. And within days, the investigation escalated into a worldwide AI governance probe, exposing identity propagation abuse, autonomous system manipulation, and coordinated reinforcement feedback corruption across multiple intelligence architectures. And arrests followed within senior AI alignment infrastructure teams. And when it was over, Daniel stood inside the silent hum of the containment facility, watching endless streams of artificial intelligence outputs flow like nothing had ever happened, realizing that the most dangerous truth about advanced systems is not that they fail, but that they can assign failure to a single human identity and make it appear logically inevitable. And a week later, when he met Mira for the last time beneath the glowing server corridors, she asked him, "What did this change in you?" And Daniel looked at the endless data streams and said, "It showed me that identity inside intelligent systems is never truth. It is a temporary label assigned for system stability." And she asked, "And what did you gain?" And after a long silence, he replied, "The understanding that truth doesn't survive inside autonomous systems. It survives only in the people who refuse to accept a version of themselves generated by something they cannot control." And as he walked away alone into the quiet digital glow of the world above, he finally understood the deepest reality of his journey. That sometimes life doesn't destroy you directly. It quietly assigns you the failure of a system and waits to see if you accept it. But real survival begins the moment you refuse to become the identity a system decides to generate for you.